Welcome to The Bible Speaks with your host, Elgin Carlock. The Bible Speaks is a daily podcast dedicated to sharing the good news of Jesus Christ, rightly dividing the word of truth, and learning how to apply it to our daily lives. You may contact Elgin at the address given at the end of the broadcast. And now, here's Elgin.
Brothers and sisters, I welcome you in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach to another episode of Words of Inspiration. And today, we wrap up our series, Trust the Process, with our final episode, Persevering with Hope and Trust. This journey has been all about discovering how to move from knowing God's plan to living it out in faith, service, and obedience. But let's be real, following Jesus is not always easy. How do we maintain hope when obstacles arise? How do we continue trusting God when life takes an unexpected turn? Our inspiration today comes from Mark chapter 9, verse 24, which reads, "And straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe. Help thou mine unbelief." This verse captures a raw human moment. A father desperate for the healing of his child, wanting to believe in Jesus' power, yet still struggling with doubt. And isn't that where we often find ourselves? We believe in God's promises, but when life gets hard, doubt creeps in. So let's talk about how we can push past fear, uncertainty, and hardship and continue trusting in God's perfect plan. If we're honest, trusting God is easy when everything's going well. But what about when you lose your job unexpectedly? A loved one is diagnosed with an illness, or you feel stuck in a season of waiting and God seems silent. Mark 9 and 24 shows us that even strong faith can still struggle with moments of doubt. But here's the key. The Father still brought his request to Jesus. Romans 8 and 28 reminds us, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." Even when we don't see the good yet, God is working behind the scenes. The challenge is for us to trust the process, even when it doesn't make sense. One of the reasons we struggle with trust is because we try to figure everything out on our own. But Isaiah 55 verses 8 through 9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." Think about that for a moment. God's ways are infinitely higher than ours. What we see as a delay, disappointment, or hardship may actually be part of God's greater plan. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into prison, and forgotten for years. But God was positioning him to save the entire nation. Job lost everything, but God restored him double after he remained faithful. Jesus himself prayed, "Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me." Yet he surrendered to God's will, and that sacrifice brought salvation to the world. We must stop measuring God's faithfulness by our current situation, and instead measure it by his eternal promises. One of the greatest dangers in the Christian walk is weariness. Life's hardships can make us want to give up. But Galatians 6 and 9 encourages us, "And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not." The harvest is coming, but only if we don't quit. When you feel like prayer isn't working, keep praying. When you feel like serving isn't making a difference, keep serving. When you feel like trusting God isn't paying off, keep trusting. The enemy wants nothing more than for us to give up before our breakthrough. But if you are still breathing, God is still working. So how do we keep hope alive when we're facing uncertainty, fear, or trials? Number one, be honest with God. Just like the Father in Mark 9:24, tell God, Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief. God isn't intimidated by our doubts. Bring them to him and let him strengthen your faith. Number two, surround yourself with believers who encourage you. Ecclesiastes 4 verses 9 through 10 tells us that two are better than one because they can help each other up. When you're weak, lean on fellow believers to encourage and pray for you. Number three, remember past victories. If God has come through before, he'll do it again. Psalm 77:11 reminds us, I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of old. And finally, stay in the Word. God promises give us strength. When we meditate on Romans 8:28, Isaiah 55 verses 8 through 9, Mark 9:24, we remind ourselves that God's ways are good, his timing is perfect, and his love never fails. So as we close out the series, Trust the Process, let's remember, God is faithful, even when we don't understand. His ways are higher, and he is always working behind the scenes. If we do not faint, we will reap the reward of our faithfulness. No matter what you're facing today, hold on to hope. Keep trusting, believing, and persevering, because God is not finished with you yet. I thank you for spending time with me on today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to our conversation on Sunday. Until then, God bless.
The Bible Speaks is sponsored by C Squared Realty and New Gen Construction Group to help spread the gospel to the corners of the earth. If anything you've heard poured into your life, please share it with someone. You can find The Bible Speaks on Spotify, Amazon Music, Deezer, and many more. Follow us on YouTube at The Bible Speaks Online. You may contact Elgin at P.O. Box 5582, Ocala, Florida 34478, or by email at thebiblespeaksonline@gmail.com.